Happy seeing you. Welcome back to Captain Rook's story time. We've been reading Treasure Island, and now we're on Chapter 3. Get yourself a warm drink ready, and get comfortable and settle in. Chapter 3, The Black Spot. About noon, I stopped at the captain's door with some cool drinks and medicine. He was still lying in bed. He seemed weak, but very stirred up. "Jim, my lad, did that doctor say how long I was to lie here?" "A week at least," I said, walking to him. "Thunder!" he cried. "A week! I can't do that. They'd have the black spot on me by then. But I'm not afraid of 'em. I'll find another place to hide, matey." As he spoke, he rose from bed, holding on to my shoulder. His grip almost made me cry out. Then he fell back, too weak to sit up. "Jim, you saw that there seafaring man today." "Black Dog?" I asked. "Ah, Black Dog," he said. "He's a bad one, but the one-legged man is worse than him. Now, if I can't get away, and they give me the black spot, mind you, it's my old sea chest they're after. You get on a horse. You can, can't you? Well then, you get on a horse and go to that dratted doctor. You tell him to gather up officers and bring them to the Admiral Benbow Inn. They'll find them villains here, all of Flint's old crew." He was growing more and more excited. I was worried that he would disturb my ill father, who needed quiet. "I was first mate," he went on. "Old Flint's first mate. I'm the only one that knows the hiding place. Flint gave it to me when he lay a-dying. But you won't tell any of this unless they put the black spot on me, or unless you see that black dog again, or a seafaring man with one leg, Jim. Him above all." "But what is the black spot, Captain?" I asked. "That's an order, mate, to appear before him. I'll tell you if they put that on me. But you keep your eye open, Jim, and I'll share my loot with you, upon my honor." His voice grew weaker after I'd given him his medicine. He fell into a heavy sleep. I left him, thinking about what he meant about a hiding place, the black spot, and Flint. I did not think about this for very long. My poor father died quite suddenly that evening, and we became lost in our sorrow. All became a blur, with visits from the neighbors, planning the funeral, and taking care of the guests at the inn. I had no time to think of the captain and his strange words. And here be his poor father. The captain got downstairs for breakfast the next morning, but he helped himself to rum and had a terrible temper. On the night before the funeral, he was in an awful state. It was shocking, in our sad house, to hear him singing away at his ugly old sea song. He did not speak to me, and I think he forgot what he had told me that awful night. He was very weak, but he still managed to climb the stairs. Sometimes he put his nose out of doors to smell the sea. He seemed lost in his own world, filled with fears. So things passed until the day after the funeral. At about 3 o'clock, on that foggy, frosty afternoon, I was standing at the door for a moment, full of sad thoughts about my father. I saw someone walking slowly beside the road. I knew he was blind, for he tapped a stick in front and wore a green shade over his eyes and nose. He was hunched over and wore a huge old tattered sea cloak with a hood. I never saw in my life a more dreadful-looking person. He stopped in front of the inn and said into the air, "Will some kind soul tell a poor blind man where he might be?" "You are at the Admiral Benbow Inn at Black Hill Cove, my good man," said I. "I hear a voice," said he. "Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and lead me in?" I held out my hand, and the horrible, eyeless, soft-spoken creature gripped it hard. I was startled by the pain and tried to get free, but the blind man pulled me close up to him with a yank of his arm. "Now, boy," he sneered, "take me in to the captain, or I'll break your arm." He gave my arm a wrench that made me cry out. "Come now, march," he snarled. I never heard a voice so cruel and cold and ugly as that blind man's. I led him into the parlor, where the captain was sitting, dazed with rum. "Lead me straight up to him and cry out, 'Here's a friend for you, Bill. If you don't, I'll wrench your arm.'" I was so terrified that he did as he told me. The poor captain raised his eyes. His face was filled with terror and sickness. He tried to stand, but he was too weak. "Now, Bill, sit where you are," said the blind man. "Hold out your left hand. Boy, take his left hand by the wrist and bring it near to my right." I saw him pass something from the hand that held his stick into the captain's palm. "And now that's done," said the blind man. At those words, he suddenly let go of me and skipped out of the parlor and into the road. I could hear his stick go tap, tap, tapping into the distance. The captain and I were both dazed. Then, slowly, he opened his hand and looked sharply into the palm. "10 o'clock," he cried. 6 hours from now. "We'll lose them yet." And he sprang to his feet. His hand went to his throat and he began swaying. He let out an odd sound. Then he fell, straight to the floor. I ran to him at once, calling to my mother, but it was too late. The captain had been struck dead by a thundering stroke. I had certainly never liked the man, but as soon as I saw that he was dead, I burst into a flood of tears. It was the second death I had known, and the sorrow of the first was still fresh in my heart. That's a sad ending, but it'll get more exciting soon. And he was a rascal. I'll be seeing you next time on Captain Rook's Story Time.